After 30 years as a counselling psychologist, Eimear Burke retired to embrace her calling as a celebrant, weaving together psychology and Celtic spirituality, and to help people create meaningful rites of passages across Ireland. She's also a master storyteller with deep passion for ancient Irish tales, bringing these timeless stories to new audiences at Ireland's most sacred sites, where these legends first took root. Eimear is the chosen chief of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids, from the mystical landscapes of Kilkenny, Ireland. As an Arch Druidess in the Druid Clan of Dana and a member of the noble Order of Tara, Eimear bridges ancestral wisdom with today's spiritual seekers. Eimear, welcome to the podcast. You are a living embodiment, present-day wise woman. I love it.
Thank you, Jen. I don't know who wrote that for you, but anyway, it sounds good. Thank you. Lovely to be here.
I did some research on you before I even reached out. I really was excited to find you and to have you on the podcast. Like I was saying before we got on to recording, it's so important to me to really spread the word of where our history is where the story's being told, because I know that our wisdom travels in our stories, and you are a master storyteller. So it was really important to have you here.
You're very kind.
Well, I'm stoked that you're here, says the Aussie. So let's start first. How does Druidry understand aging? Like not biological, but spiritually and culturally. Let's start there.
I've never been asked that question before.
Oh, good. I got a tricky one to start with.
Well, it's a no-brainer.
Love it. Excellent. It just fits.
Well, just let me tell you, I suppose what my understanding of what Druidry is. They say if you no two Druids will say the same thing about Druidry.
Okay.
And within our order, there's huge diversity. So I'm only going to give you my tuppence halfpenny worth.
Please.
But for me, it's a nature-based spiritual path where we look to the landscape and the seasons as a metaphor for our lives. Part of our training is very important, is that we develop our own inner world, our own inner grove. And we're always I'm pointing outside to my window, it's nighttime, but I have a beautiful landscape out there, that we look to the landscape and the seasons. And when our inner world is in sync with the outer world, then there's a sense of harmony and balance. And so we in our lives, and we do that by following the wheel of the year. So we've just celebrated Imbolc. And every 6 weeks we have a ceremony to mark the season and that point in the landscape. And what it does is reminds us of how we are in the world. Mm-hmm. What am I doing for myself? What seeds am I sowing? What do I need to pay attention to? And it also honors that cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And I think that, so we go through so many deaths, and I'm talking about in the one incarnation. I'm not talking about reincarnation. I mean, that's a thing as well.
It's another story.
The cycle of life is that every year things are born, they live, they die, and then they're reborn again. And I think when we come to an end of whatever phase in our life, it can be the end of the week, or it can be the end of the day, or the end of the year, or the end of your career, or whatever it is, or end of a relationship, that allows space for something else to be reborn. So the aging thing is, so I'm 66 and I'm having a whale of a time. My life is much better than it was. I'd never go back to my 20s or my 30s. I began to shift when I hit 40. And then I marked every decade, and I was getting better. And now I'm doing it every 5 years. So that with a great celebration. I never ever thought that when I'd hit the age I am, that I would be doing these things I'm doing. They were never part of my plan. I was not a goal setter with a long-term view and all that stuff that the gurus tell us to do. I've kind of been one of these dull, ordinary people, and suddenly who's been open to the world, and I'm having these amazing experiences. So, like, I retired last July from, over 30 years in my private practice as a psychologist, thinking I would always work as a psychologist until, my mind went, if it was ever going to go, because as a psychologist, as long as you can sit up in a chair and listen, you can work. but I was losing that hunger. And now I've been storytelling for many years now, but that was growing. And then, of course, my work with the Order, which started, 5.5 years ago as chosen chief, that I was losing the hunger for that bit. But psychology is so interwoven with Druidry. And Philip, my predecessor, is also a psychologist. So our training is both a spiritual and a personal development path. So it's all interwoven. So reaching this age in my life is great. It's exciting because I have an internal age of 37. And it's like I'm alive. I'm not old. I've been here 66 years, but I'm not an old person. I have loads of energy. And it's not that I'm defying aging or anything like that. I am aging, but that's not an issue. So it's like being connected with the land. When you look to the landscapes that we honor, and it'll be the same in Australia, they're ancient. So connecting with ancestral pathways, ancestral teachings, ancestral energies reminds us that, time is nothing. It's an illusion. So here we are, in the 21st century, sitting on land that's ancient, and our ancestors have walked these paths wherever you are on the land or in the world. And it's just, I think we can tap into resonances that are old, and yet they're profound and they're young. So age is something that it's not. Did I start off saying it's not a thing?
Yeah. Yes, you've looped around. I agree. It's a Western. Here we chuck people in oldies homes. And that's what, distresses me. So I'm 65. I remember hitting 40 going,
this is a young one. Yeah.
You're a year older. 40, I thought, this is cool. Like 50 was like, yeah, this is really cool. 60's like, fucking bring on 70. I love it. Never been as excited about life. It is crazy, isn't it? But we're not buying into that Western message of getting old.
No, and I thought when I was younger that once I'd hit 50, I'd be wearing kind of old-fashioned clothes and everything would just slow down. And it's like, no, it took off. And I'm an elderly mother. I'm old enough to be my children's grandmother. And my mother's going to be 90 next month. And she's still going strong and won't stop until she can't go any further. She had her knee replaced recently, but she was cycling up to November before she got her knee done.
Go, Mom. I love that.
So we got her a new bike when she was 85 during COVID. So, and she was playing golf until about 6 months ago. So it's that kind of stuff. And she says, like her father says, I'm not going to rust it out. I'm going to live it out. So live as fully as you can for as long as you can. And my husband died 11 years ago and he was only 69. He had cancer, but the last year and a half of his life together, we decided we live as fully as we can for as long as we can. And he published 2 books in his last 6 weeks. Because mentally he was fine, physically he wasn't. He was, getting very, very thin, and I did everything for him. And he died here at home. But it was like, we continue until you can't.
Yeah.
Always alive, always. He was, he was editing a paper on rock carvings in Scotland the morning he died. So it's those kind of.
So good.
Stop. Don't give in. Don't let the old person in.
Yes.
In I am too old person, because with age comes loads of wisdom. And I think as an older person, are you very polite language wise on this podcast?
I'm an Aussie. What do you fucking think?
Okay, thank you. So you don't let
be real. Yeah. This podcast is about being very real.
Okay, so none of this bullshit.
No, give it to me.
Old. That it's about being alive. And I just think older women are fierce, and it is just brilliant. I'm not scared like I used to be when I was younger.
Same.
Oh my goodness. I was brought up, be respectful to elders, listen to them. If you could always be wrong. So if an adult was saying something and I knew they were wrong, but I said, no, it's me. They're right because they're an adult, and you can't be disrespectful and you can't contradict them and all that stuff. Now I go, of course I don't want to be contradicted now that I'm an old person. But I'm not afraid of anybody now. And make comments about old women, you have no idea what you're dealing with. So I love the invincibility. You know, I was never invincible when I was young. You know, people say in their 20s when they ruled the world, they thought knew everything. I never did. I don't think I know anything now. And the more I know, the less I know. But I'm not afraid anymore. So, and I don't need to prove anything, which is such a relief.
Yeah, it just keeps getting better. I love it. I love it. So traditionally in Celtic communities, kind of what roles did the elders, it's passing down that wisdom. Is it lost over there like it has been here? I sit on land that's 65, it's been inhabited for 65,000 years. It's the oldest, right where I'm sitting. I'm looking at Jellicle like such a spiritual place out my window, and yet we've not in contact with that stuff. Us Westies have fucked it up.
It's such a pity. But you know, so I mean, I grew up with, I suppose, the idea of respecting elders, etc., etc. I think a few generations haven't behaved well. They haven't been the best of role models in many ways. I don't know what kind of a role model I am or my generation is, but I do think. I remember. So my husband was 14 years older than me. When he reached 60, I said, "We're going to have a big party and we're going to have a ritual to mark your elderhood." And he said, "No, no, no, nobody's interested in old people and nobody's going to listen to me." And we did shamanic training together. And after that, and the people who come every month when we meet or whenever we met to say, "Can't wait to hear what he's to say this time." He wasn't the teacher. And I used to get really pissed off at him. I said, "Well, you're an old person. Stand up then and go and say, listen to me. Don't be waiting for somebody to ask you to speak. You get up there and be a role model and stand up and speak." So by the time he hit 65, he copped on. And he began to recognize, oh, I might have some wisdom. And people
I'm
did.
glad he did before he passed.
Yeah, yeah. And he died. He was young. He was 60,
Yeah.
69. But I remember being really pissed off at him. Like, for God's sake, you stand up and be counted. So there's no point saying, well, nobody listens to me. I'm an old woman. No, 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 no. So get up there and speak. What are you waiting for? No one's going to give you the stage. Go and take it. And I haven't elbowed my way to the stage somehow, because that's not my way, even though I am feisty. And my daughter used to call me an attention whore when she was a teenager. She now admires me. But I'm not fighting for fame or any of this kind of stuff, but it's somehow because of what's inside me. I've stepped into my own self, my own place in the world, and I'm very, very grounded. And I think somehow that just people get that. I'm
It's
not
a presence. Yeah.
I'm
When
not
you stand in it, it's a presence.
not
Yeah.
performing.
Nah,
Because
I get
sometimes
it.
people say that was amazing. I go, what was it I said? I don't even know what I said.
Mm.
So I think it's about being able to stand in your own power, where your soul is, and finding your place in the world. It's about finding where your soul is, wherever that is in the world, and being who you are, and without trying, because you have nobody to convince.
Yeah.
Unless you're, and I think people who are trying to convince others are really trying to convince themselves. So when you get to that point that I'm okay the way I am, you know, warts and all. I mean, that's what's the really important thing. And I'm not too sure what I have to share with the world, but I'm happy enough with the way I am. So
it works.
So I think that's what aging is about, is coming from finding that still center within yourself, that place of greatness within you, and just be who you are and let that somehow, if people can recognize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not competing for it, not competing for the
No. No, I get more grounded and slow is the wrong word. Certainly pasted it as because I've tear-assed through life and fucking conquered and done everything. And now it's like, and it can't stop it. And I know there's a hormonal shift. As estrogen drops, we naturally come to this time where we care deeper, but we don't give a fuck. However, there's a pace that changed. I've noticed a giant pace that's changed in me, especially the last couple of years. And it is, I think our wisdom isn't just words. It's that presence. It's that that calm in the chaos that allows us to help hold
I
people.
think, yeah, I think it's the holding. You don't have to go around chasing your tail.
No.
Now, I'm busy. I retired and then I didn't stop. I'm actually in a quiet phase at the moment. I'm in the country. It's brilliant. I don't have to go anywhere. But I think it's about the holding.
Mhm.
And when you grow up to yourself and when you can hold yourself, then you can hold other space for others. And the thing about space holders, it looks like you're doing nothing.
Yeah.
When you host a dinner party,
Yep.
uh, people feel held. What are you doing? You're sitting at the top of the table or wherever. Okay, you may have cooked the meal, but during the whole eating bit, you're there as the host, but you're holding the space. And it might look like you're doing nothing,
Yeah.
but you're not. You're really, and that's what you do
It's
when
an
you hit.
intention.
That's right.
It's almost an unconscious intention, don't you think?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's really interesting. Oh, so I know in Druid spirituality, it's deeply rooted in listening. And I recently interviewed Professor Jackie Huggins, who's like one of our Indigenous wisest, most respected elders. And she talked about deep listening. And I think in that the traditional cultures, listening is such an important part. Tell me about that within Druid
It's about sitting
spirituality.
in stillness. It's about sitting in stillness, wherever that is. So we have three levels in the training to be a druid. Or you can just do one if you want. It doesn't matter. We don't have a hierarchy, but there are three levels. And in the first one, the bardic level, and that is around developing your own creativity, finding it in the landscape through your engagement with the landscape and the elements. And it's about sitting still and listening to the rivers, listening to the song of the trees, listening to the song of the stones, and the sound of the earth. And they speak to us in different ways. We hear things in a different way, but it's about listening, and it's about that finding that stillness. Because if you're busy, you miss things. So
Yeah.
a lot of it's about that, and then that it's not about learning from books. It's about learning from the landscape that you're in, allowing the landscape to teach you what it is you need to know.
Mm.
And we all learn different things from the landscape, and we're all in different landscapes. So we have members in the order who are from the Southern Hemisphere. So everything is upside down where you are.
Yeah.
Our colleagues in Australia have been celebrating Lunasa. We've just celebrated Imma. Imma gets the opposite
Yeah.
festival of the year. But you find your own trees, your own beings in Australia, which is very, very different to what we have here. But it's about finding that, and each person, it's by distance our training, and it's a self-paced course. It's a mystery tradition. We have exercise and things that you do, and you do it when it feels right for you in your own time, and there's no exams, and you're given an opportunity to reflect on what you've learned or how you've engaged with that. It's not about the right way or the wrong way. And it's about you finding your space within that. So we have maybe over 37,000 members all over the world since we've started. And ours is I like to describe it as a salad of diversity. So we have people from all traditions. You don't have to have I don't know what Celtic ancestry is, because there are no Celtic genes around. I don't know where the Celts went. They left language and culture and things, but for the want of a better word.
Yeah.
But we have pagans, atheists, animists, Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, who are Christians, who are members of our order. And it's up to each one to weave their spirituality, their background, the values they've had into their way as they follow the path of the Druid.
Love it. So for everyone who's listening, doesn't matter where you're listening to this, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on any podcast platform, look below, because I will put the link to be able to check out all these courses. Yeah, have a look. Ooh, I'm excited. So
And no dogma. We
go
have
for
no dogma. We have no big book. We've no rules. We've no sins, no commandments. You take responsibility for your actions. You have an internal moral compass. You don't need the good book, because you can see how the good book has helped lots of people around the world. And you look at all of your actions through an ethical lens. We don't say, for example, you have to be a vegetarian and you can't fly and all of this kind of stuff. No, you choose to live how you wish to live, but you do it responsibly and ethically.
And it's in tune with nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being of service is very important. Finding magic. So the magic is important, not in a manipulative way. The Irish word for druidry and magic is the same. It's druidh.
So tell me more about magic.
Well, we have wands, but we use wands usually to cast a circle, not to put spells on people.
Yeah.
But it's about being open to what happens is this is my own experience, is that nature conspires with us, not against us.
Yes.
So when we're in circle, all our ceremonies are in circle because we're all equal. And when you're calling to the east and the element of air, so many times birds will fly by or they'll burst into song, or you're calling on the element of fire and then sparks hop out from the central fire. I remember once we were doing a full moon ceremony and it was a cloudy night and we were standing in our circle, then we turned to face the moon where the moon was behind the clouds to call on the moon, and we did, and then the clouds parted.
Love it.
There were new people there and they go, how did you do that? It's like, so, or it stops raining just before a ceremony. That this is a common thing that for me, there's magic in that I was talking to somebody the other day, I was picking snowdrops and the sun was shining down. It doesn't often shine at this time of year, but anyway, it was shining. And then this bee came because it was warm enough for the bees to come out. I have a hive, and stood or landed on the flowers I was holding. And I was talking to them about the magic of nature. And then what happens? This bee comes, lands on a bunch of snowdrops that I'm holding. That's magic.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
But it's not manipulative.
No, you're in tune with nature, you're in tune with everything. And then so it's like your energy attracts what you're after.
And also it's noticing it, because magic happens all the time. And people know what magic is. We use the word. Like you say, oh my God, that music was just magic.
Yes.
You can't measure magic. You can't define it. But when you experience it, you know what it is.
Yeah. Love it. Let's talk storytelling, because storytelling is such a powerful, vessel for wisdom. She's not my nonna, she's my friend who's a nonna, who's very much a nonna to me. And so, the Italian nonnas, it's all about how the storytelling is how our wisdom travels. And so as we age, we have all this collective kind of wisdom, and it's so important for that to be shared. And I know that storytelling is such an important part of what you do. Tell me about storytelling.
So there was something you asked earlier about respecting elders. So we have this thing called the notion of the ban fasa, or the far fasa, or the manoa fasa, the wise women. So the wise woman, the ban fasa, is not necessarily a storyteller, but a healer, a herbalist, somebody who is sought for her wisdom, or him, because they're wise men as well. And my storytelling is, when I joined the order and I was doing the course, a lot of the stories were from the Welsh tradition, which were really fascinating. But I thought, I need to look at my ones from the Irish tradition. I had experienced them in school, in primary school. The nuns taught us these stories. I had learned about druids, didn't think it was a thing in the modern world.
Ah, cool.
So I then went back to the myths and legends in Ireland, and because we have a very, very rich source, thanks to the Celtic the early Christian monks in Ireland. But they're very patriarchal, and of course they were written through a Christian lens. So they're amazing stories, and I thought, but I'm going to tell those stories from using the voice of the woman, a female character within it. And that's what I do. If I'm telling the myths and legends, I'm not talking about the hero. I'm talking about the women in the story. They're telling the story, not often in the first person, because I think that's really, really important. Otherwise, you keep perpetuating this patriarchal view of women in so many of our stories. Children are taken from women. They haven't been able to look after for various reasons. And of course, we've had that history in Ireland with Magdalen laundries and mother and baby homes since independence. It's interesting. My God, these themes are in are legends, obviously different reasons, but still where mothers have not been able to look after their children, or you have abusive women, being controlled by men. It's like, well, I'm not perpetuating that anymore. I'm going to let
Don't
her.
feed that old story.
So that's what I do. I'm kind of subversive.
But with a pure heart.
Of course. Well, subversion is always pure, isn't it? Well, it depends which side you're on of the subversiveness. But yeah, it's about getting people to rethink and not perpetuating old motifs that are outdated. Because look at the world that we face at the moment. Look at the incredible violence and perpetration of horror and control and oppression and stealing land and killing people, all of that stuff. And it's like, well, there's enough in the old legends. And some people say, do we need new myths? Of course you can, but I don't need new myths. I have the old ones that I can repurpose and have another look at them and just tell them through another lens, through another voice. And I think that's very, very powerful.
Yeah. What do you think happens to us individually and culturally, society, when we lose our storytellers? Because that's as a white Australian, we're missing all that stuff. Like I said,
I think you
we
lose your
throw our
soul.
oldies into an oldies home. Like,
I think you lose your soul. We've a phrase, Chirgan Chonga, Chirgan An, a country without its language is a country without its soul. And that was coined by one of our leaders of the 1916 Rising, Pádraig Pearse, meaning, and he was referring to the Irish language. But I also think if you don't have your stories, you don't have your soul. And I think really, if you look at any of the indigenous cultures or any of the preserved cultures, there is none that doesn't have its storytelling.
Yeah.
And it only takes a generation to lose the stories. So it's really, really important. You're talking about your nonna. Are you Italian?
No, Scottish and English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mum's side Scottish, dad's side's English.
So that nonna is an Italian
she's a friend. Our nonna she's just a friend who is my nonna. Yeah, and she's Italian. Yeah, I listened to her. Like she was one of the first people to really teach me the importance of storytelling and wisdom. Yeah.
And I don't know who doesn't like a story. When I'm in groups, I say, does anyone want to hear a story? Yeah. And it doesn't matter how, sophisticated people are. It's like, yeah, who doesn't like a story? Yeah. I mean, we read novels, films tell stories or whatever. And I think it behoves us to, if we've forgotten them, to go and find them.
Yeah.
A lot of them, so many have been recorded. You can do that. And I don't know about the Aboriginal stories, how available they are to you in Australia.
Yeah, some of them can't be shared because it's sacred, like within their tradition, but so much could be shared and it's not listened to, which is, we lose so much. We have not listened to our Indigenous folk, and it's sad. It's why one of my first guests I had on this podcast was Professor Jackie Huggins, because we need that wisdom. They've inhabited this land. They know our story.
I think it's interesting. It's the thing of the colonialists to diss and dismiss that of the Indigenous, of the colonized, and to rubbish it, etc. And of course, that happened to us. It's happened in Australia. It's happened to any culture that's been colonized. And unless people wake up, that colonial mindset, it needs to be rejigged. And it's like, no, it now starts to revisit and really, really hear. And those stories need to be shared, obviously shared in a way that they are respected and not appropriated or exploited. But when you think of the stories that are available to you, if only people could listen to them, because they're really, really profound. I don't know them, but, I've heard a few, but I know from, African stories or the ones of my own land, they're very, very profound and very, very, they're fascinating. And I mean, to have that hunger and a curiosity about the stories of the land is so rich, because that is soul food.
Agree.
Absolute soul food when you can listen to a story. And I love, so if I'm walking the lands, Sliabh is a mountain about an hour's drive from here, it's the Mountain of the Women. There are stories that that's a place where stories take place in the mythology. I've been there. It's like, yes, I can tap into this, or the Slieve Blue Mountains in the center of Ireland, or being in Sligo, or whatever it is up in Donegal, walking the land where the story takes place, and it animates it, but it also animates me. And again, it feeds my own soul.
Yeah, deeply too, I'd imagine.
And stories don't contain facts, they contain truths.
All right, so tell me, give me a definition between truth and facts.
Well, the fact is you and I are,
Talking.
sitting in front of our screens talking. I'm here in Kilkenny, you're in Australia.
Australia. Yep.
Check it out. I have to take your word for it, by the way.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, I'm in Hills at the moment.
So if I'm telling a story and I say, and then this woman came through the veil and she had shimmering robes and she was the goddess Danu, and you go, is that a fact? I say, no, but it's the truth of the story that I'm telling you, because there's some kind of message, or there's a resonance that people go, I know that story. That is so true. Like love stories are true stories, but they're not factual necessarily.
Yeah.
And to get caught up in, the facts of myths, is like, forget the facts, stick to the truths of the story, because that's where the message is, that's where the healing is, that's where the insight is, that's where the resonance is, where the food and the nourishment is. And like, what do we say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And I'm not talking about, telling lies in court, but
No.
when it comes to storytelling, it's to transport people, to take them out of themselves so that they can find themselves in that story and then come back to themselves.
Yes. In Druid tradition, how's a personal experience like me, for instance, transformed into wisdom more than just a memory? If I've got a memory, how can I pass that on? Or what is it that allows me to pass that on as wisdom?
I don't know. Don't try and pass it on as wisdom.
Oh.
Because I'm very suspicious if someone says, people have said, Eimear, I'd like to, I've a lot of wisdom to share. Can I come on your, I'm like, no.
Okay, no.
Because I'm not, as soon as you think it is. I think
So
it's
is
about,
that ego? Ego allows it to not be?
and of course, I have no ego, by the way, and I'm sure you have none either. But
It's our ego said that. Yeah.
else it's easy to spot it in other people. But I think is about being yourself and being a role model. Just not saying I am a role model, but actually modeling it, walking the talk.
Yeah.
So whatever you've acquired from your life experience, you can share it, but not saying, let me tell you about my experience, because I think you're going to really learn from this, because actually your experience may not be helpful, or it may be really helpful. But I think it's about standing up and being just doing what you're doing, like your podcast. That's where it is. Having conversations like maybe the one we're having, where we're talking and somebody else is listening. But I'm not intending to share my wisdom, because I'm not too sure what wisdom I have. The more I learn, the less I know. And that's something that's a wise thing to say, is it? I don't know.
It is. I like that. I have heard it before and I like it.
I'm not all knowing. And people project a lot of wisdom onto me that I don't think I have. That's always a thing too. But it's about having conversations.
Love it. So what kind of myths? Oh, sorry, go.
That phrase, out of the mouth of babes. You have a child comes out with something, and go, my God, here's somebody putting it up to us. They're not sharing their wisdom. They're just saying something.
Just being, yeah.
That they know to be true for them,
true for
whatever.
Them. Yeah.
And it's that. And then it's the listener who goes, wow, that's something I need to pay more attention to. And I think that's us as well. But I think it's through conversation. It's through relationship. Our relationship with the land around us, our relationship with each other, community, having that awareness of that interconnectedness of all beings. I think having an animistic worldview, where is that we are all ensouled. So we are ensouled beings with ensouled beings inside us, parasites, viruses, bugs. The rocks are ensouled. We eat ensouled food to feed us and to feed the ensouled beings within us. trees are ensouled, rocks, stones, rivers, mountains, all of that. And then when we have that sense, then we don't have to find an altruistic note within us to take care of the earth, because there's an imperative that's there. A bit like, I don't know if you have children, but if you have a child, the imperative is there. It comes from within. It doesn't like, oh God, I should be a really responsible parent. I must take care, or I must make sure they eat enough.
It's just in us.
Comes from within. And I think when you have that animistic worldview, you have that same imperative to take care of the earth. Now, it's challenging because in order for one species to survive, it needs to consume another. But we're also being consumed. However, the sad thing is that having lost that connection with the earth and her beings, we've exploited that notion that this is to be exploited, rather than, okay, we can take from the earth and we return and we give back and we give thanks, and we are aware of that interconnectedness of all things. So if we eat meat, for example, we give thanks for that, and we know that we are going to return to the earth. But this notion of everything to be exploited, I think, is where we are at the moment, unfortunately, and that is the sad bit. But I think having an animistic worldview and it doesn't mean you can't be a Christian and an animist. You work that out for yourself. It's not about getting rid of all the other religions, and this worldview is the only one. But I do think it's the one that gives me most comfort.
Awesome. So how do you think women can, within your tradition, reclaim their own stories after decades of being told to keep their mouths shut, and their lives are being defined by, roles more than their voice? Is there anything within your tradition that allows or sets space for women to be able to stand in and use their voice?
Well, within the order, within Druidry, women aren't silent. They are equal. There's no like, I'm the head of the order. The scribe is a woman. Pendragon happens to be a man. It's always been, when our founder Ross Nichols, he founded the order in 1964. It's always been an order of equality. For Druidry, with the revival in Britain, for example, you had to be male, a Christian, and a Freemason to be a Druid, and that was a kind of that cultural thing. But in the mythology, our texts, there were female Druids, not many, but they were there. But just because they weren't written about doesn't mean that they weren't. But there's enough evidence of female Druids being there to recognize that probably way more were written out. But so within the order, you don't have to try hard to find your voice. But I do think it's standing in solidarity with each other. Within the order, it's fine, but calling it out maybe, or again, I suppose, I think it's all got to do with relationship, having conversations in solidarity with each other. I remember there was a story of a farmer who had cows, and he had a contrary bull, and the bull charged on the farmer, but the cows formed a circle around him to protect him from the bull.
Go the cows. How cool is that?
Okay, so that was women in solidarity.
Yeah.
Protecting their farmer and not allowing the bull to do whatever he wanted to do, to attack. And I think solidarity is key. And I think, and it's not just, I think men need to join women as well, but solidarity and having conversations. And not buying into the bullshit that's going on. It's like when you reach a certain age, you say, this is rubbish. Like I'm too old to have long hair type of thing. And once you hit 40, you shouldn't be wearing these kind of things. It's like, who says? So it's not calling it out and spotting the bullshit that's there and talking about it, so that younger women who are still finding themselves and listening to all the bullshit can begin to question it. My daughter does that all the time. She questions. And I'm so proud of her now. She was home educated until she was 14. So she was brought up in a household that invited question and interrogation of ideas and notions. and she's very, very strong in herself. I mean, obviously she has her own insecurities, etc., and she struggles and all that kind of stuff, but she doesn't buy the bullshit. And she has seen me not buying it, and she saw her father not buying it. And I think it's that.
Mm. Yeah, the hair thing is so. I've had short hair since I was 9 as a kid. But my wife, so I'm 65, Alice is 63. Yeah, the hair last year the hairdressers went, "Ooh, do the little bob kind of thing," and she went, "What? No, Alice has got, you know, gray hair like you, long." And so I was like, "Babe, grow it longer. Fuck that." It's yeah, there's it, and they turn it into like this bob that ages like, oh yeah, this age you should have this bob
Yeah.
thing. It's like, what? No, do what you want to do. Like, yeah, I agree. Don't buy into the bullshit. Don't let the old lady in.
As a child, I was a redhead and I had short hair and I hated it. And everybody thought I was a boy. It just killed me. So when I was 11, I was allowed to grow my hair. And then I was 25, and a friend of mine who was 31 at the time told me I was too old to have long hair. I should cut it. So a year later, I cut it. And then I had it shorter than yours for 15 years, like a bzzz.
Yeah,
Used to razor
buzz
it
cut
for me.
it. Yeah,
And if if you don't cut your hair, it grows. You do know that. So I felt I had no time to get it done. And then it was getting a little bit longer. And I thought, do you know what? I'll just grow it just so I can tie it back. But I never intended to grow it long. And I haven't washed my hair. And then I was a redhead. So when I was 30, so when it was very short, I didn't notice myself go grey.
ah.
And I haven't washed my hair in 19 years.
You haven't washed. Tell me about that. Well, the natural oils in it,
I
it's
brush it.
better for it. Yeah.
So hairdressers probably hate me. Although I have a friend in Italian, I was there as a hair model in January. He opened a hair salon and he invited me over to be a hair model so he could do an upstyle. But I don't. I just brush it. That's how I keep it clean.
Yeah. Well, the natural oils are there. And hair is also a reflection of our inner health. I'm a naturopath by training.
Ah,
So, yeah. And so hair, skin, and nails are just a true reflection of our health. And so I love that. And health isn't just physical health. I just throw this in here. It's emotional, spiritual health as well. And because you are so aligned in yourself, it doesn't surprise me at all. And I love that you don't wash your hair, because all those products and shit, like some scary stuff out there. I love that you, yeah, yeah. I wash mine once a month when I get a haircut, and that's just to wash out the bits of hair from the haircut.
oh yeah,
Otherwise,
yes.
I never wash my hair either. I do this. I'm the same.
And I
Yeah.
don't even wet my hair though.
You don't wet it.
Oh
Oh,
no,
I
no.
do. Oh, I do wet it of a day. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. I love it.
yeah.
Does hair hold anything special in Druid tradition? Just throw that in. No, just, yeah, love it. Cool shit.
When you think of uh, a lot of pagan women wear long hair,
Yeah.
and in Ireland, the traveling community, traveler women wear long hair. It's their crowning glory, and it's really interesting because when you think of First Nations in America, where the men were made to cut their hair, and it was like almost they took their power. And then it's the story about Samson and Delilah, when Delilah cut Samson's hair, cut all his string. And there's something about now I didn't feel powerless when I had short hair, but I have a lovely relationship with my hair now since I've stopped washing it.
Love it.
So when I washed it, it was very frizzy and dry, and I was always putting goo on it to get it to soften, and now I don't. So
It's naturally soft.
and I'm comfortable enough being a hag that it's like, yeah, hags can have long hair.
Oh, hags are gorgeous. Yeah. I'm lazy. I'm too lazy to do my hair. That's why I keep it short.
Well, having it long is easy peasy. I just brush it. I mean, I can put it in a plant or
Oh,
something.
I might grow mine in time. You're inspiring me, Emma. Oof. I'm curious, off the top of your head, are there any myths or stories that speak most directly to that transition to elderhood? Because so many of my audience are that they're coming in and just settling in this time of elderhood. Is there any stories you can share off the top of your head that really call to it?
Well, there's one, and you see, it's not about elderhood because I think there's it's my own story. So there's a character called Sive. So I don't know, Finn McCool is one of our heroes, okay? And he's out hunting on Slievenamon, the mountain of the women down the road, and he comes across this deer and realizes it's not an ordinary deer, and he takes the deer back to his fort, and this deer is a woman, and he tells her name is Sive, that she's been put under an enchantment by a sorcerer because she refused to marry him. And he said, you'll be safe here. And they fall in love, and then she gets pregnant. And then he has to go away for a week. And she thinks he's returning, and she runs out, thinking it's her lover. And she realizes it's the guy, the sorcerer. And he takes her, turns her back into a deer, and she disappears. And he spends Finn McCool years looking for her. And then years later, he's up in Sligo in a place called Ben Bulben. It's a mountain up there. And he finds a little boy in a copse, and he realizes it's his son because he has his mother's eyes. And his name is Ushin, means little deer. And they have great adventures. And I go, wait a second. What about Sive? Where's her story? So I tell it from her point of view. And it's about that, very powerful woman. He turns her into a deer, but she becomes wild and she escapes. She has this deer wildness. So Fionn is the Irish word for wild, and Fia is a deer. And she slips through a cola bracket, an enchanted doorway from the other world into our world. And that's where she meets Finn McCool. And then when she's taken back, she escapes again. And the sorcerer, there's a long story about the malevolence turns on him, and he dies. And she's back to her own people. And then she knows she has to return her son to this world, because he has to reach his own destiny. And again, it's that giving up your child, to allow them to be who they are. And even though she still loves Finn, she can't go back because she has found herself, her own dear wildness. She stays where she is because that's where her soul needs to be. And that, to me, even though she's still young, because she lives in the land of ever young, so there is no aging, but there's that finding your soul and being where it needs to be. And I think that's very much like an initiatory story through trauma, through awfulness, because this sorcerer turns her into a deer, and somehow she flips it, she becomes wild. And then she can go between human and deer, back and forth. Just different ways of being, but she stays in the place where she needs for her soul to be. And I think that's an important one. So it's not so much about aging, but it's about coming into your own. And I think that's what it is, about coming into who you are and where does your soul need to rest and to reside, and finding that place. It can be in a physical place, but it can be through an activity or creative expression or whatever it is. And I think that's what elderhood is about. Not so much about age necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I was actually just going to ask you, what do you think elderhood asks of us that midlife, which is the age version, doesn't?
To stay young enough and to be here long enough to be seen. When I was in my early 40s, I met an American woman who was 10 years older than me. She was much fitter than I was. And I remember she was saying, we were having conversations about aging, and she was saying in the US at the time, people were getting knee replacements when they were in their 40s. My mother was getting hers in her late 80s, and that aging is happening much younger because people are getting injected, and it's even gone madder now. But she says, we have a duty to stay young. And she wasn't talking about looking young, to be elders. And she says, you're only starting, she said, in your 50s and 60s, beginning to get into the swing of it in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and you're a real elder in your 90s. So, which I thought that was lovely, that you have a duty to live as healthily and as well and for as long as you can to be an elder. And it's not about, oh, I have loads of things to say, but it's through relationship. It's about your presence and in relationship. And I think that's really, really important.
I think that's great wisdom. I love that. Yeah, that's very cool. Thank you. I really like that. So if you think that women really trusted the wisdom that we've accumulated through age, what would change if we really own, as a society, women, if we really stood in our power?
The bullshit would stop. Because it's like, if you collude because of your own insecurity and your own negative self-belief, and you see the world that's sold to us, this is the way it is, and you buy into it, it'll continue. But when you stop buying into it, the game can't be played anymore. There's a psychiatrist called Eric Byrne who wrote a book, Games People Play, and he would talk about the various games. So you have a couple. So you and I are a couple, and I'm really into you, and you find it too much, so you step away. And you step away, well, then I step away. And then you go, oh, she's stepping away, and you come back to me, and there's tuners back and forth. It's the I stepped out and I stepped in again. And this is how we live our relationship until one of us names it, and we can't play it anymore. Something has to shift. So when you go, I'm not falling for that anymore, for whatever side, about fashion or about money or possessions or all this stuff, is like, no. You know, when you see about even like FGM, for example, in some cultures where that happens, there's a belief that if you don't keep that, then you're actually ruining the marriage prospects of the girl. And people get worried about that. It's like, if you don't play by the rules, and I have friends who are from those cultures who are trying to change this. And it's not just, that's an extreme example, but also if you don't play your cards right, you're not going to do well in the world. And you have to, and I want, as your mother, to keep you on the straight and narrow so that you will get the best possible life. And all you're doing is becoming a slave to whatever the zeitgeist is. And it's not until we go, no, I'm not playing that anymore. Call it out. Like those world leaders should be calling out a certain mad king at the moment about what they're doing.
Agree.
You know, just
It
saying,
is a
I'm not
game.
playing that game anymore. It's a
Yeah,
game.
we can change the rules. That's how I see life. Life is a game, and I can choose to change the rules at any time. Yeah, to do good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And solidarity, and, you know, helping others, and stop competing. We don't need to compete. So if you look at, we're equidistant genetically from bonobos and chimpanzees. So chimpanzees tend to be competitive, and bonobos are more cooperative and more matricentered. And we can be more like bonobos than chimpanzees because they're equidistant. You know, and they look alike, but we can change.
Love it. I have to respect your time. I could talk to you all night. I know it's getting to your bedtime over there. Eimear, what have we not talked about yet that you really want to speak into? This is your soapbox moment. What do you want to just?
No. I think it's about not being afraid to speak out. Maybe we've alluded to that, but really, particularly now, name it, not to be afraid. You know, the emperor has no clothes, and we need to continue talking about that. And there's lots of emperors and lots of naked emperors, and we need to call them out and not be afraid. But you can't do it alone. Let's be together, unite in our diversity, because it's not about being the same. It's not about assimilating. It's about really respecting the diversity in all of us. And you know, any biodiversity is really, really important. You have monoculture, it's dangerous. But being able to allow that and not be threatened by it. Wake up to ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. Yeah.
So much. Thank you. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self with the wisdom that you've got today, with today's wisdom, what would you whisper in your ear?
I would say, listen to yourself. Trust yourself, because I didn't for a long, long time, to my cost. And that would be, I don't have any regrets, but that would be one regret, that I didn't wake up sooner. And then I know, well, you know, everything has we all have our own time and our own patterns. So in many ways, I wouldn't change things. I have a very strong gut, and I ignored it. And I was very polite. And what did somebody ask Helen Mirren when she was 70? Did she have any regrets? She said she's sorry she didn't tell more people to fuck off.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, I'm the chosen chief. I can't be telling people to fuck off. I have to be nice and polite anyway. You know what I mean? And I thought, wow. And I was a nice girl, being respectful of my elders, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when elders abuse their power,
Yeah. We have to call it
they,
out.
yeah, and I didn't. I dream of it.
Same, same. Do you think that we're meant to get to this time to find them? I'm the same as you. I wish I'd had the balls to use my
Ovaries,
voice.
ovaries,
Ovaries, sorry. I wish I had had the ovaries. You're right.
ovaries needs to do that. Yes.
Too. I wish I don't live with regrets. And I would have used my voice a lot younger if I'd had the oomph to do it.
I was a people pleaser, so a good girl, and I wouldn't upset my parents. I couldn't understand why anyone would. I was a good teenager. Why would you upset your parents? Like I would never have snuck out a window if I was told I couldn't do something. That's fine. The only thing I didn't do was study. I wasn't able to, but that wasn't out of mischief or devilment. It was like I just wasn't able to. But I was a good girl, compliant, saw the
Mm.
world through my parents' eyes, and woke up in my 20s.
I
So
love that you are standing in your power in your full glory nowadays. And it has been such a pleasure to talk to you today.
I've
Such
enjoyed
a
my
pleasure for
conversation.
me.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am going to do your course. Really. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I came home, and it's a bit of a cliche now among our members to say, "Well, what did you get from joining?" Oh, I found my tribe. I came home. I came home to myself, and I came home to a community. And because you are free to be the druid you want to be. There's no there's no exams. It's not a qualification.
Yeah.
It's a way of life,
It's a
and it's a
learning.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And of course, we have lots of members in Australia. They
Well,
have camps, and yeah.
I'm going to check it out. And in the meantime, if wherever you're listening to, I've got the links below to Instagram, Facebook, all those kind of things where you can find Eimear. Eimear, thank you from the depths of
It's a
my
joy
being.
talking to you, Jen. Thanks a million.